In MMA, records are meant to be broken, but some of these, forget it. Nobody's touching them. From crazy win streaks to fights so wild they'll never happen again. Today, we're diving into the records that make you go, how is that even possible? Stick around, because by the end, you'll know which ones might stand forever. Max Holloway's striking records. If MMA had a video game boss for cardio and striking, it would be Max Holloway. This guy doesn't just punch a lot. He drowns you in clean, accurate shots. He holds the record for the most significant strikes landed in a single UFC fight. 445 against Calvin Kattar. 445. And just to put that into perspective, in round 4 alone, he landed 141 strikes. That's more than some fighters land in an entire fight. And it's not just a one-off. Holloway also holds the record for the most significant strikes landed in UFC history, with over 3,900, and he's still adding to that number. The gap between him and everyone else is so massive that it feels like nobody's ever going to catch him. The craziest part? He doesn't gas out. While most fighters slow down after a round or two, Max is literally talking to the commentary team mid-fight while piecing up his opponent. That's how effortless he makes it look. Now here's a fun one for you. Be honest. If you had to survive one round in the octagon, would you rather face a one-punch knockout artist? Or Max Holloway, who'll touch you 100 times before you even know what happened? This record isn't about one lucky punch. It's about relentless surgical pressure for 25 minutes straight. And that's why Holloway's numbers might stand forever. Most UFC wins. When we talk about the most wins in UFC history, nobody tops Jim Dangerous Miller. The man has racked up 27 wins inside the octagon, more than anyone else ever. But here's the part that blows my mind. This guy has been fighting at the very heart of UFC history. He competed before UFC 100, then fought at UFC 100, UFC 200, and even UFC 300. That's over 15 years of showing up, throwing down, and still finding a way to win. Think about that. Entire generations of fighters have come and gone. Champions have risen and disappeared. But Jim Miller is still here, grinding. While legends like Cowboy Cerrone, Andrei Arlovski, and Charles Oliveira are stuck in the low 20s, Miller has pulled ahead and built a cushion at the top. And the crazy thing? He never needed a UFC belt to earn respect. His legacy isn't about gold. It's about durability, heart, and the kind of consistency that almost feels impossible in this sport. He's fought through injuries, he's fought through eras, and somehow, he's still dangerous. Most knockouts in UFC history, if we're talking about pure violence, there's one man who's sitting on the throne, Derek the Black Beast Lewis. Nobody in UFC history has knocked out more people than him. As of now, he's sitting at 15 knockouts inside the octagon, the all-time record. And the best part? Lewis doesn't even look like your typical shredded, scary MMA fighter. He's got this big, calm, almost laid-back vibe about him. But when the fight starts, one punch, and it's lights out. His knockouts aren't just wins, they're viral moments. Flying knees, uppercuts, walk-off bombs. Derek Lewis has left more heavyweights staring at the ceiling than anyone else. And here's the thing, he's not just about power, he's about timing. He'll look tired, he'll look like he's slowing down, then boom, out of nowhere, he ends the fight with one clean shot. That's why fans love him. You never count this man out until the referee is pulling him off his opponent. Oh, and let's be real, the post-fight interviews are just as legendary as the knockouts.
My balls was hot.
Enough said. Derek Lewis isn't just a knockout machine, he's entertainment every single time he steps in there. Most consecutive wins in UFC history. Let's talk about consistency on a legendary level. The record for most straight wins in UFC history? That belongs to Anderson the Spider Silva, with an insane 16 consecutive victories between June 2006 and July 2013. He wasn't just winning, he was absolutely dismantling challengers, often in devastating fashion. Now, even if Silva's run is the gold standard, the list of those who came close is a who's who of MMA royalty. Kamaru Usman went on a tear with 15 straight UFC wins before his run finally ended. Right after them, a whole elite group, all with 13 fight streaks, including John Jones, Demetrius Johnson, Georges St-Pierre, Max Holloway, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and the modern force Merab Dvalishvili. Pretty wild, right? These fighters didn't just dominate, they defined eras. Silva's streak, unbelievable strikes and submission artistry. Usman's grind and championship control, ruthless. And that list of 13 win legends? Well, you're staring at cages full of all-time greats. Youngest champion in UFC history. Now, here's a record that might never be broken. The youngest champion in UFC history. That title belongs to none other than John Bones Jones. At just 23 years and 8 months old, he stepped into the cage at UFC 128 and absolutely ran through Mauricio Shogun Rua to claim the light heavyweight belt. Think about that. Most 23-year-olds are still figuring out their careers, maybe just finishing college. John Jones was out there beating legends and holding UFC gold. And this wasn't some lucky punch. He dominated Shogun from start to finish, showcasing that freakish mix of size, speed, creativity, and fight IQ that made him a generational talent. The scary part? He didn't just win the belt. He went on to defend it against a murderer's row of challengers. Rampage Jackson, Lyoto Machida, Rashad Evans, Daniel Cormier. Jones built one of the greatest resumes in UFC history, starting as the youngest champ ever. Fastest knockout in UFC history. Blink and you'd miss it. The fastest knockout ever in the UFC came in at just 5 seconds. Thanks to Jorge Masvidal. UFC 239, 2019. Masvidal runs across the cage, throws a flying knee, and boom! Ben Askren goes stiff before he even hits the ground. 5 seconds. That's it. The fight was over before Joe Rogan could even finish yelling, "Here we go!" And here's the kicker. Masvidal and his team actually planned it. He knew Askren was going to shoot for a takedown right away. So instead of waiting, he sprinted and jumped straight into that knee. Pure genius mixed with pure violence. That single strike didn't just break a record. It turned Masvidal into a superstar overnight. Gamebred went from journeyman to viral sensation. And that flying knee is still replayed everywhere whenever people talk about the most brutal knockouts in MMA history. Fastest submission in UFC history. Not every record is about throwing bombs. Sometimes it's about how fast you can snatch a neck. The fastest submission in UFC history belongs to Oleg Taktarov, all the way back in 1995 at UFC 8. He choked out Anthony Macias in just 9 seconds with a guillotine. 9 seconds! That's barely enough time for the commentators to say the fighters' names. But here's where it gets fun. Modern fans might remember Ronda Rousey, who built her legacy on insanely quick armbars. She has finishes in 14 and 16 seconds, and in her prime, it felt like if you blinked, you'd miss her snapping an arm. And of course, who can forget Frank Shamrock? He needed only 16 seconds to submit Kevin Jackson with an armbar in 1997. Most submissions in UFC history. Nobody in UFC history has done more submissions than Charles do Bronx Oliveira. As of now, he holds the record with 16 submission victories inside the octagon. What makes it so crazy is the variety. We're not talking about one trick over and over. Oliveira has finished guys with guillotines, rear naked chokes, triangles, arm bars, you name it. He's probably pulled it off in the UFC. His jiu-jitsu is so slick that even elite fighters know one mistake against him, and it's game over. And the best part? A lot of his submissions came in wild, back-and-forth fights. He'd be eating punches, looking like he was in trouble. And then suddenly, boom. He snatches a neck or an arm, and in seconds the other guy is tapping. That's the magic of Oliveira. Danger at all times. Think about it. Legends like Demian Maia and Frank Mir were once submission kings, but Oliveira took that crown and ran with it. He's not just the submission leader, he's the poster boy for modern jiu-jitsu and MMA. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't click away just yet. Go watch every level of an MMA fighter explained.